Welcome to the Musar video blog. Last week we spoke about Purim, as well as the week before, but last week we talked about how what seemed to have been a very negative event turned out to be good, and we spoke about that idea. I would like to focus on that as well, the same point that we mentioned last week, but bring out a different idea from it. And that is, Haman issued a decree against the Jews. He sought to annihilate every last Jew from the face of the earth. Now, the Jews had heard before that they needed to change their ways, that they were not doing what they were supposed to, they were not going in God's path, they were not keeping the Torah, they were beginning to lose it. They had been hearing this for, could be hundreds of years, from the words of rebuke from the prophets. But when Haman issued that decree, and the Jews realized that this is it, if we don't change now, it's all over, the message was driven home. When the prophets were talking, they listened, they said, yeah, but who says, maybe not. They lacked the clarity. Of course they wanted to be good, but they didn't have clarity, they didn't have a proper resolution. It wasn't a solid commitment. When they got this clarity, which came about because of that terrible decree that was issued against them, when they had themselves backed against the wall, when they realized there is no other way out of this predicament, that was a state of clarity. And it's something that we need in our own personal avoda, our personal service, our personal Musar practice. Sometimes what we need is a clear-cut, solid commitment. It reminds me of a joke. A guy goes into a bank, he wants to cash a check. He comes to the teller, he says, I want to cash this check. The teller says, you know, you need 2 pieces of ID. He says, what do you mean pieces of ID? Well, what kind of business is this? The teller says, well, you know, we have to be confirmation, certification, authorization. What are you talking about? I want to see the manager. Goes to the manager, he says, you need 2 forms of ID. He says, what do you? He says, well, you know, authorization, certification. What are you talking about? I want to see the president. Goes into the president says, what's the problem? He says, I want to cash this check, they're not letting me. He says, we need 2 forms of ID. He says, what are you talking about? What kind of crazy stuff? The president takes a hammer, walks over to the house, bang, over the head. The guy walks out, goes back to the teller, gives the check, presents 2 forms of ID. The teller says, what happened? The man explains, I come to you, you're talking all this double talk. Authorization, certification, authentication. I go to the manager, same double talk. The president, he explained it to me. So sometimes we need to give ourselves that hit over the head. We need to explain it to ourselves. Oftentimes, the reason why we're not changing is because we don't really have a resolution. I personally, I remember there was one time I was working on a certain issue, and it was for a long time, and it wasn't getting it till I finally came to the realization that, you know, the main reason why I'm not getting anywhere is because I really like doing this thing. You know, I like it. I didn't have a resolution, a solid, ironclad resolution to stop doing it. People talk lashon hara, they speak bad about others. Okay, you know, they watch the the films that are by the Chafetz Chaim Heritage Foundation. They read the Chafetz Chaim lesson a day. They have the bumper sticker on their car. And still, they might still be talking bad about others. Well, what's going on? The answer is, because it could very well be that I like talking about others. Somehow it feels good. It's interesting conversation. It's juicy. So until they come to the point where they say, you know what, I have to recognize that the problem is that I don't have an ironclad resolution. I don't really, really, really want to get rid of it. I really like doing it. And that's hard to do, but at least starters is to get the realization that I'm lacking in the resolution. So whatever it is that we're working on, and if it's not going, it's worth taking a step back, looking inside of ourselves, and recognizing that maybe the problem is that I don't have this ironclad resolution, and maybe I should start working on that. We need to explain it to ourselves. See you next time.